Good evening. Welcome to another episode of TD Online. I'm your host for this evening, Thaakir, and I'm going to be taking you through a amazing evening of just sports and all the sporting action that's been happening around the country and what you can expect come 2021. This evening, I'm going to be joined first up by Deon Basson. He is the president of Progress Rugby Club out in Uitenhage. I'm also going to be having Aneesah Adams, the very first female coach for the University of the Western Cape. She is the first ever women's coach of the women's team. This is the first in Africa. Could be the first in South Africa as well. I think it's amazing. Then we're going to be joined by Olympian Alyssa Conley, who's going to be telling us what exactly it takes to prepare for the Olympics. She's going to give us the athlete's perspective on that. Then, to end of the show, we're going to be chatting to Achmat Essau. He is a South African living over in New Zealand. He's going to give us some information about the terror attacks that took place in Christchurch about 2 years ago. He's also going to be telling us a bit of how New Zealand misses the South African flair in the Super Rugby. I'm ready for a jam-packed evening of all things sports. Are you? Joining us first, we've got Deon Basson. Good evening, Deon. Thanks for joining me on the show this evening. It's a pleasure to have you guys from the Eastern Cape on the show.
Good evening, Thaakir. Good evening, all listeners. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's such an honor. You could be watching Eastern Cape right now, but here you are on TD Online telling us all things Progress Rugby.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'm here to support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deon. Deon, talking about EP Rugby, you guys have the likes of Peter de Villiers that's recently come in and taken the reins at your club. And what has it been like working with a former Springbok coach like Peter de Villiers, obviously taking hands with the club, with the clubs in the union, and obviously giving the players a platform to play on the EP team against some of the professionals in the rugby fraternity?
Yeah. Firstly, I must announce that it's an honor for EP. And for us as the Eastern Cape to have Peter, former Springbok coach and an international coach, to be coaching our EP team, that's really an honor for our guys, for the province itself. And, with his status, his achievements, I think he will do good because he's overqualified, if I can say it like that. But we are here to give him his space, to find his feet and to do good. And we are here to support him.
No, definitely. How many Progress Rugby players were in that team, if I may ask? I've seen a number of players from other teams, and from Progress in specific, how many were there?
We currently have 6 now. We have 6 in the squad. There's few guys that are on the short list. And to be honest, I expected more of our guys to be there because we're the current champions of the Eastern Cape and EP.
Well, definitely. But I was about to ask you, is this a EP team or is it a Progress team? Because 6 out of 23 players, that is quite a lot.
Yeah, truly, they are on their own merit. They deserve to be there. And there's many more that deserve to be in that squad. But let's see what's happening and give Peter a fair chance to prove himself and see what he's doing with our team. But we will support him.
Yeah, I definitely think that he can, and I'm so excited to see what he has in store. Deon, tell us a bit about yourself. You're the president of Progress Rugby Club. Where did your love for rugby begin, and how long have you been in the rugby fraternity?
Yeah, firstly, rugby is in my blood. All my brothers, my whole family is playing rugby. My son is also playing rugby. He's now 17 years old. I've been a founded member, if I can call it like that, of Progress. I started with Progress in 1992. I have the privilege in 1991 to play Saku's rugby for Excelsior, the oldest club in Uitenhage. So it all started at a young age. I played rugby at primary school, secondary school, and after school also I went to play for Excelsior. And then 1 year, then 1992, I started playing for Progress. So as I was saying, I was a founder member. I also played EP Merit team. And I was called in 1998 for the elite group to take part in the squad. Yeah, so I know a little bit about rugby.
And now you're dwelling in the politics of rugby. So you've been the president and you've seen the club grow from strength to strength, being a founding member as well. If you just look back and you look at everything that the club's achieved, what do you think was some of the key important factors that the club was built on, and some of those models that the club was built on, so that you guys can obviously achieve what you have today?
You know, Thaakir, the first thing I must say, it was installed in us as players that you need to be disciplined. You know, that was the first thing that our seniors and our executive members taught us, with discipline and respect and the love of the jersey and the love of the game. That was the first thing. And the legacy that they left behind for us, we just follow on that. You know, for us, it was more about the jersey and the game of rugby, the brotherhood, the family, the fellowship, all those type of things. That was the basic things that was installed into us as players. You know, the love of the game and the love of the jersey.
Look, I think that is quite an amazing feat, and a lot of people can actually take that into consideration, wanting to build empires, if you want to call it that, in the rugby fraternity and the club rugby fraternity for that matter, that if you play for the love of the jersey, anything is possible. Right, let's go back to founding Progress 1994. Let's go back on that.
1992. Okay.
1992, sorry.
Yes.
And
Okay.
if we look at that, and how did it all start? Did you just decide one day you're going to start a rugby club and boom, here Progress was? Or what was your process into getting this club started off the ground and being one of the best in the Eastern Cape?
Actually, what happened, you know, in the Sarkis days, in the apartheid years, we used to have our Sarkis, we used to have our own sector of rugby that year under Saru. We played under Uitenhage District Rugby Union, that they called UDRU. We were a lot of clubs in the northern area. So what actually happened is that Progress was established 1992. And the idea of forming the club was to merge with strength of a number of clubs in the disadvantaged areas of Uitenhage. Due to the merger, the club has a big support base that stretches beyond the boundaries of Uitenhage. The club boasts a history of a true non-racialism. Our club Progress has a huge support base and have members that are scattered all over the country as well abroad. You know, because there's so many clubs that join under the umbrella of Progress. So that's the reason. And then, you know, it's so surprising and heartwarming to see that a lot of these members are so passionate about the club. Although they're not here in the town, in Uitenhage, they are still passionate, they still inquire, they still want to know, they are still interested in the well-being of the club. The club has grown exponentially since the advent of unity. At this point, Progress has more than 200 registered players. And I don't even count the large number of not formally registered players that still are involved with the club and still are willing to play for the club. So this gives the club an edge above other clubs. As a large membership gives us the advantage of being able to draw from a resource of experience, wisdom, and skills that exist amongst its members. You understand? Because there's so many club players that wants to be part of Progress, that wants to don the Progress jersey. But, you know, Progress made history during 2006, if I can remember, with the National Club Rugby Championship in Stellenbosch, by being the first non-white team that beat the Martyrs, the University of Stellenbosch, in the opening game. Then in 2007, Progress under 21 team became the first, 2007, I think, became the first under 21 team, non-white team that won the EP under 20 rugby competition. Then in 2010, Progress won the EP Rugby League, the Rugby League, yes. Then also they won the Sectional Cup, as well as the Nelson Mandela Bay Sevens. What else there? 2017, EP won again the EP Rugby League, the Rugby League competition. They was selected as the EP Gold Cup representative. 2019, Progress became the unbeaten champions again of the EP League. 2019 again, they qualified to be the Gold Cup representatives. Then I think last year, 2020, Progress became the unbeaten champions of the first ever Super 14 Cup that was played. We beat Swallows. Swallows is from East London. Swallows consist of the whole border team, and there was 3 of their members that played for the Kings franchise. We beat
Deon,
them.
can I just come in there quickly? I know you like talking about this, and if I wasn't such an avid rugby follower myself, I wouldn't know what happened exactly down in EP when you guys took on Swallows, right? For the rest of South Africa, do you want to give them a quick explanation on the vibe out there? Before we get to the game, let them know exactly what it was like coming into that stadium, because you guys were trending on Twitter and all social media platforms because there just wasn't enough space for you spectators.
Yeah, Thaakir, it started with the semi-finals. C.S. Kolisha, our national Springbok captain, he was a former player of African Bombers and also a sponsor of them. So on match day, he came there to create a vibe and create support for them. I more believe they wanted to come and intimidate us. But fortunately for us, we had a band, the Progress band, guys that create a vibe, played music, just like at the cricket. And on that, it was packed. There was no place for any other person. It was fully packed. So on that day, we played the semi-finals. We beat African Bombers to qualify for the finals. Because Swallows was top in their league, we were top in our league. So we had to flip a coin to decide whose home it's going to be. Swallows won the flip, and the match was scheduled to go play. We have to go and play in East London.
East London, yes.
Yeah. So what we've done, a lot of our supporters went through the day before. So when we arrived with the team, it seems like it was a World Cup. It was fully packed. The Absa Stadium was fully packed. Our supporters were there in blue. We felt as if we were playing at our home game, So we were ready for the game. Our players were psyched up. Our supporters were psyched up. Everybody was ready. We went on the field and we do our job.
No, definitely. And I think the gears that you guys bring to rugby down there is so much different to what the rest of South Africa has. But now we go moving forward. I mean, you told us a bit about your history. You guys managed to break an unbeaten run by a certain club down in the Eastern Cape. They were unbeaten for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And then they came across Progress Rugby Club. How exactly did that go down? And what do you guys do to get your players motivated to break records like that?
I think you're referring to Swallows. It was Swallows that we played in the final. They were the unbeaten guys. It was them. As I was saying to you, it's a pride. And luckily for us, what we have done that helped us a lot, we established the Progress Old Boys, the former players and ex-players of Progress. And what we've done with the build-up of the campaign, the Super 14 campaign, we invited them to take part in the pre-match preparations and stuff, talking to the boys, telling them what the jersey is all about, the history of the club. And that motivated our guys a lot because you could see, they were surprised to see all these guys that used to play for our clubs, And it was a privilege for them and an honor for them. And at the end, they realized it's not about them alone. It's not about the team alone. It's about the community. Because the community, they didn't represent only for Progress. They represent the club, the community, the town, and even our province. It was a broad thing that they had on their shoulders.
No, I mean that is quite an enormous feat. And I mean, if you look at it, well, there we go. I mean, Charles Minis actually came to come tell us and fix up our facts. He said that Swallows were 5 years unbeaten on home soil. And I mean, for you guys to come in there and actually break a feat like that is amazing. I don't think if you look now, I don't think there's any team that's unbeaten for that long on home soil in club rugby, unless you look. Looks like I'm just having some signal issues. But I'm back. Deon, if we look at
just for the record, Kuti is actually the chairperson of our old boys group. That's why he's so passionate. He was one of the guys that was supporting us and supporting the players and psyching them up for the game of Swallows. He took the initiative by bringing all the old boys in to motivate our players. That's why he made that comment.
Nice. It gives us some reference to go back onto. And I mean, if you look at the amount of notable players in your club, how many guys from your club actually, or who can you remember from your club that went on and went to provincial colors and even to represent the national team?
Yeah, there's a lot. Let me start by mentioning, we had Elroy Lachman. He came here, he was our captain of the Progress team. He was selected to represent Eastern Province team. He played over 100 games. He's the first player of color that received that accolade, playing more than 100 Currie Cup matches. That's one of them. Then you have Fernando Penshaw, just mentioning him. He's currently Raiders head coach. He used to be a captain of our team.
What a legend.
Now you can
what
imagine.
A legend.
Yeah, he's also a legend. Then you have people like Mr. Philip Joseph. He's the ex-CEO of Eastern Province. You have Denver Vanis. He used to be also coach, our head coach. Then afterwards, he went to coach the EP Merit team. Then he became the South African women's team national coach. And then he's now currently the World Rugby consultant. Then you have a guy like Godfrey Thorne. He used to play for Saru front ranker. And he also used to be one of our head coach. He was selected to assist Mr. Laurie Mains. That time it was the Cats, it's now the Lions, to be his assistant coach. You have Eric Sols, well-known Eric Sols, the first EPN, the Springbok under 21 coach, who became the champion. Himself a Saru player fly-off. Ronnie Corkia, well-known scrum of legend of Saru, also used to be a player of Progress, became EPN 21 coach. You have Ryan Felix, he's currently under 20 coach. He used to be our head coach. He coached successfully, unbeaten, EP under 18 team, EP under 19 team. Then currently we have Touring, Eric Touring is our head coach. He also used to be EP under 21 coach, and he also is a coach of the unbeaten 2019 team and the 2020 team. So there's a guy that knows about rugby in our club.
No, definitely. No, quite a bit, because I mean, knowing that I'm from Joburg, I work quite closely with Fernando Penshaw myself, and he's a rugby genius, just to put it just quite frankly. And I mean, he's going to be guiding the TUT team in the Varsity Shield this year, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. I mean, it's quite an amazing feat for guys going from club level right up. So that's amazing. Definitely. I can tell by your passion that you speak with that. I mean, the passion just brews in EP. Deon, I mean, look at it now. And I mean, so many of Progress's guys just progress. Sorry for the pun. But I mean, they really just progress in their rugby careers. And if you look at it, what do you think it is in the club that allows these guys to step up to a professional setup? Because if you look at it, a lot of people always look at club rugby and club officials as amateurs and refer to them as amateur rugby. Yet at the same time, there is so many professionals in their own right in the amateur rugby setup, like they'll call it. What are you guys in Progress doing right?
There's a lot that we are doing as support structures, as the executive, the coaches, even the supporters, and now the old boys. Firstly, we educate our players. What's rugby about? What's a club about? We are amateur club. We don't pay our players to play rugby. That's the first thing, because we believe when you play for Progress, you come to Progress for the jersey. Then secondly, we are at Progress. We are like a family. We support one another. We motivate one another. We correct one another. We are there for one another. I didn't mention, for instance, we have a spiritual group in our club. When there's bereavements, where there's sickness, where there's funerals, our club are represented. So for the players, they realize it's not about just them playing rugby. It's more than rugby. It's about the person. We give them an opportunity to grow as a person. We support them. Whatever they need, we go out of our way to support them and to find resources to build them. When they're injured, we make sure we take them to the doctor, because a lot of our players are unemployed, and we make ways and means to support them, because it's difficult out here. The unemployment rate is very huge in our town, in our province, as well nationally. So, but for that player, we make them feel welcome. We make them feel that he's part of a family. And you won't believe me, Thaakir, that is the things that the boys pay their hearts out, because they know whatever happens to them, physically, mentally, they know the club will be there for them and supporting them in every way we can. So it's more the brotherhood, the fellowship, the family atmosphere that we can.
Looks like technology is just getting the better of us here, but we will have Deon with us in a bit, chatting to us more about Progress Rugby Club. The stuff that they've achieved over the years is amazing, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing what more we can be expecting from Progress Rugby come 2021. Yes, COVID is rife, and SARO has given the go-ahead for contact training. It's now down to the clubs to get their house in order so that they can obviously go ahead and then possibly field teams if we look at it in the next 8 weeks. I mean, I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure everybody out there is as well. And if you're watching the show, keep the comments coming through. We're going to have Deon on in just a bit, so keep that comments coming. If you have any questions for Deon as well, pop them through, and let's get interactive. This is what makes the sports show different to any other sports show that you'll find around. There's always interaction between everybody on here. So that's what makes it special. If you just look at some of the comments that everybody's passing through, we've got here Howard Blow, Charles Minis. Thank you so much for interacting with us. Even Narissa as well. Narissa, you're saying, yes, progress. Those blue hearts are certainly doing the thing. And then we've got as well, we've got the likes of Charles Minis congratulating Fernando Penshaw, who's doing wonders out here in Gauteng. Look forward to watching him and his methodologies, if you want to call it that, in the Varsity Shield this year. Well, he looks to guide TUT to winning the title. I mean, it's possible. Knowing Fernando's caliber and the structures that he puts in place, I definitely think it's possible. We're going to look forward to getting Deon up with us in just a bit. Looks like we're having a couple of technological glitches, but yeah, that's what we're struggling with. However, we have a jam-packed evening for you guys. If you look forward to it, we're going to be looking forward to chatting to Alyssa Connolly, the Olympic sprinter, 2016 Olympian. She's going to tell us what exactly it takes from an athlete to prepare for an Olympic Games. We're also going to be chatting to UWC's first ever woman coach in the likes of Aneesah Adams. She's going to tell us exactly about her journey through rugby and what exactly it took her to become the head coach of UWC. We're also going to be chatting a bit later to Achmat Essau. He's going to be telling us a lot more about Aotearoa, what New Zealand is missing out on, and how they're coping with a life without the South Africans. I mean, it must be quite boring not to have South Africans in the frame. But yep, let's go quickly through this. We're going to be chatting to Aneesah Adams in just a bit. So don't move. Don't refresh your page. Stay with us, as you don't want to miss a single bit of the show. Hey, good evening and welcome to TD Online. This evening we have a very special guest with us. She had the name of Aneesah Adams. She's recently been appointed as the UWC women's team head coach. This is the first ever for UWC, and it's another great achievement for women's rugby, if you can call it that. It just shows that women are starting to own this space, and something that should be happening a bit more in the sporting fraternity. Well, that's enough about me speaking about her. We've got the lady herself that can tell us a bit more about her and her journey through rugby. Good evening, Aneesah. Thank you for joining us on TD Online.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. You've been in the news quite a bit this past week
Yeah.
with your head coach role. You're also involved with the Varsity Cup team. I mean, what inspired your journey in rugby and what got you started?
I've been involved in rugby since I was in high school, but I only started to take it seriously about in 2015 or 16. I started coaching at UWC last year. Before that, I was involved at club level. I started off working as a first aider, and then I moved on to fitness and strength conditioning, and then eventually coaching. I worked
Has
at
coaching always been your passion? if you can call that? Or did you see
Yeah, it's
yourself
always been-
dwelling into other avenues?
It's always been my passion, but there's never been a market for female coaches. There was no one to look up to or anyone to ask for advice.
And going like through things, who are some of the coaches that you turn to find advice and look for guidance in the coaching fraternity?
I would probably say Labib Levy, solely because of his not because only of his coaching approach, but also because of the type of person he is. He does a lot for the community and he shares his knowledge with everyone. He's always pushing everyone to reach their full potential and is always willing to help.
That's such a fact. That is such a fact. And earlier today, we've seen that he was announced the head coach of the Stormers team that will be taking on the Bulls in Pretoria. Yeah, that's correct. And Salman Murata will be taking the captaincy for that fixture.
Oh.
UWC's put immense pressure on you. You've not got the reins to guide the ship. Being the first ever female coach of the women's team, what are some of your short-term and some of your long-term goals that you'd like to put in place for UWC to see that the rugby fraternity actually grows at the university?
We're basically starting the program from scratch, so we have to put a proper plan in place for the women's rugby. We're not just thinking about now, but long-term as well. We want to start a feeder system, not only for UWC women's rugby, but women's rugby in general. And I think it's safe to say that it doesn't happen overnight. It requires a lot of hard work and dedication to implement the plans we've put in place. Short-term goals, I would say, to build a strong foundation for the women's rugby. And then obviously long-term goals is to have the plan be sustained over the next few years to come.
You've got quite a task in your hands, and I certainly know that you can achieve it, and I've got no doubt as well that you can achieve it because you do come from a rich rugby history and background. Tell us a bit more about your journey in rugby before you got to UWC.
I worked at Strand Rugby Club, St. George's, and Belhar. At Belhar, I'm currently the SNC as well as the first aider and the media marketing and sponsorship consultant.
Sure, certainly wearing a lot of hats, eh? In terms of your media marketing and obviously sponsorship in sport, do you think that club rugby is on the right track? Because we do know that there's so much eyes on club rugby. But now with COVID obviously coming into place, how do you re-strategize how you're going to approach 2021?
Yeah, definitely. VP has hosted media marketing and sponsorship courses online, obviously, during the COVID period for all clubs to help them.
I think it's definitely something important for obviously the clubs to put in place so that moving forward that is actually a clear picture and a vision that everybody knows where they're moving towards. And I mean, you obviously been saying that you weren't, when you were in your journey of coaching, that there weren't any female coaches to look up to. You're not going to be one of the first that other women can then look up to. What are some of the important things? Or why is it important for there to be female coaches in these positions so that other females can look up to them?
I think it's so that the younger generation has someone to look up to and to know that it's not only men in sport, that there's female in sport as well. And I feel that South Africa needs to do more to promote women in sport, although SARU has showed an increase in supporting women's rugby. I feel that women still remain underrepresented in all sporting codes. For example, cricket, soccer, rugby, swimming. They have yet to establish domestic leagues for cricket, rugby, and soccer.
No, that's so true. And there is the if you want to call it, the women's version of the Currie Cup, the A division and the B division. And we've seen yesterday at World Rugby for the first time has drawn up a calendar for women's rugby for 2021, 2022. So that's quite exciting. And even on a Varsity Cup level, I think it would be quite amazing if there could be women's rugby. You're a female coach, and sorry for the ignorance, but we do know that a lot of us as males and a lot of, say, sport was predominantly dominated by males in the past. Why is it important for a women's team to have a female coach? sorry for the ignorance, and I hope that you can educate myself and also the viewers and the listeners out there so that we can relate to some of these issues, and hopefully the sport administrators that are watching this can put women in these roles.
Well, personally, I feel that a woman can coach a woman better, obviously, because they understand there's certain aspects that aren't just the coaching aspects, the physical part of being a woman that men don't understand.
That is so true. That is so true. Because I think it also, a change room environment, it would be, females would feel so much more comfortable around other females than having a male in that environment, because obviously we do know it's how do I put this?
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable, yes.
Yeah,
so
not everyone is secure.
Yeah, exactly.
Not everyone is secure in their own body and the way their body looks. Where it's more comfortable when you have a female coach and female staff attending to you.
Definitely, it would make things so much more, so much easier. You've obviously told us about your task at hand and things like that, but let's get back to you as a person, as an individual. What is your plans for the next 10 years? Where can we see you, and what changes would you like to make in the South African sporting fraternity? Because you've achieved a lot on a provincial level, and we're quite excited to see you owning the provincial space, and certainly looking forward to seeing you in the national space now.
Yeah, hopefully in the next 10 years, I'll be able to coach internationally and obviously nationally. But we'll see. We'll see where the road takes us.
Yeah,
definitely.
No, I think in international space, there's so much opportunities, and there is the World Rugby Sevens, where we see now that the women's edition has been added to the Cape Town leg for later on this year. So that's going to be quite exciting. You have more than just the coaching role at UWC. You're also involved in the sevens, if I'm not mistaken.
No, just the Varsity Cup for the moment. So I'm the manager at Varsity Cup and in the video analysis.
Okay. And if you look at management and video analysis, what is your role basically as a manager at the UWC team? What
so being a manager,
do?
It's unlimited. It goes from admin to making sure everything's on the field, to making sure everyone's registered, to making sure everything is sorted out. It's a lot of work, but it's definitely rewarding in the end.
No, I mean, we just see it because UWC is growing by the day, and they've had a number of good coaches there over the years. And more recently, we've seen that Paul True has taken up the coaching reins at UWC. What is it like working with a guy of Paul True's caliber?
Paul's got a very different approach when it comes to coaching. I would say he chose the best of the best in coaching positions, medical positions, management positions, and he pushes everyone to the max. Definitely. It's a high performance setup.
And that's definitely what we need, especially in an environment like that, because we find that Varsity Shield, Varsity Cup is more as a stepping stone for administrators, for coaches in the sporting fraternity to then make the step up to, let's say, a provincial level, if you want to call it that. Yeah. I think that it's quite important to have a structure like that. And coming in the likes of Paul True, you've certainly blessed. How many sevens titles does he have under his belt?
Yeah.
And yeah, you in safe hands, if you want to call it that.
Definitely.
Before I let you go, what advice do you have for females in the industry that would obviously aspire to be like you and follow in your footsteps one day?
Obviously, to be goal-orientated, it helps a lot. Set yourself small goals, because setting a big goal and not achieving it might just disappoint you. And then obviously, do what you feel you are comfortable with. Don't listen to what anyone else is telling you, even if they say it's not possible to achieve what you feel that you set out for your goal.
Thank you so much for your wonderful advice and sharing your story with the rest of the online community and rugby community as a whole. We hope that your story inspires many other female rugby players, administrators, coaches to want to be great and take over the industry and obviously work towards greatness just as you did. I wish you all the best for your season ahead. We do know that you've got a bio bubble coming up real soon, and also with the women's team. I'm wishing you all the best and good luck. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to join me on my show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. That was Aneesah Adams, the recently appointed head coach of the UWC women's team. Head coach for UWC. Deon, you're back. The signal is finally on your side.
I'm fine this side. Don't know what happened, but it's fine.
Yeah, no, definitely. Such a motivational and inspirational story by Aneesah Adams there, being appointed the first ever women's coach of the UWC women's team.
Yeah, that's brilliant, man. That's nice. It's encouragement for all our women in the country and women power. That's good to see. That's nice.
Definitely, Deon. When are you guys having a women's team? We had a bit of a signal issue earlier, but I mean, let's get everything out of the way now, and we definitely need to have a part 2 on the show. There is so much to talk about. Progress is just one of the clubs in South Africa that everybody needs to know about.
No, we're planning to have this year. No, actually, last year we planned to have one before the pandemic, but we decided in the beginning of the year we're going to put all our resources into the Super 14 because it was something huge, you know, and we decided we're going to finish that campaign, and after that we're going to start with a women team. There's a lot of interest in that. There's a lot of people that want to be part of the Progress Rugby family. So yeah, we hope to see if everything settled down, go back to normal, then we're going to make pen of that. I can assure you that.
No, definitely. I'm going to actually record that clip and we're going to hold you to your word because we're going to remind you every week. We can remind you that of the promises that you made for us. Well, COVID's affected most clubs so much, Deon. And I mean, how's it affected your club and how are you guys bouncing back, knowing that Sauru's giving everybody the go-ahead to play rugby again?
Yes, as you mentioned, Thaakir, it affected the whole country, the whole world, actually. And we're also part of it. You know, for us, the club itself, it's more for our players, our coaches, our community. It's more about the spectators and the players, you know. And they felt it hard because rugby became part of our normal life, you know, our daily life. Rugby is a huge, huge asset in our community. And for us as a club, as we said, we are amateur club. We used to back on our gate takings for income. And normally what we make, we use the income to invest in our players, the underprivileged. We used to, you know, that's the thing that we normally use the money for. And the last year or so, there's no income for our club. But luckily and fortunately, we have passionate members. We have members that loves our players, loves our club. And all of them contributed to support with food parcels for our players, those that are underprivileged. We supported our community, our supporters. And even the broader community, we supported them with food parcels and stuff. We went to businesses to ask for donations and sponsorship. We received from the community, the business community, you know, in our town. So yeah, it was difficult for us. It's still difficult, but we're a strong club. That's why we call Progress. We are progressing. We never stand still. We don't wait for people. We make a plan, and we are fortunate to have passionate executive members that love the club and go out of their way to provide for our players, especially the underprivileged players in our community and supporters in our community. But we're currently busy. We're busy with getting back on the training field. We're preparing for whenever Saru said it's back to normal, we can play contact. Then we have a lot of games that's awaiting us. So yeah, we're preparing and getting ready for the season.
No, I'm excited. I'm always willing and keen to hear what you guys are going to be getting up to. It's going to be quite a different space for everybody, knowing that fans won't be allowed in the stadium. Games are going to have to be streamed. Do you think that's going to affect your spectators by any chance? Because we do know that if you look at your spectators, it's a different target market for that matter. Let's call it apple here and a pear.
Yeah.
Most of your spectators don't have access to Wi-Fi, to fiber, how are you going to still keep your spectators in the loop with everything, knowing that even if you go the live streaming route, many of your spectators don't have access to that resources?
Thaakir, our games, our matches, it's not about the player alone on the field, as you mentioned. It's about our spectators. Our spectators are so passionate. Then we have our secret weapon, the Progress Band, that create a vibe, that motivate our guys to go the full out, get that extra boost in them and stuff like that. But fortunately for Progress, we have a great, talented young man, Achmat Essau. He's our PRO. He's good in this technology and stuff. We have plans in place. We're going to book the halls where we can have public viewing, things like that on the big screen, just to keep them part of the game, And I know it's going to be difficult for us. I mean, you can see in the provincial matches, international matches, guys are struggling without spectators because the spectators also contribute to the performance of players on the field. But we have ways and means. Are we going to cover us and prepare for our spectators to watch our games live?
No, definitely. Deon, look, it's been great chatting to you. I definitely look forward to chatting to you again in the near future. And I mean, your Progress supporters are just taking over the show and the platform. And we obviously hope that they stay online to listen to what the Olympians Alyssa Conley has to say and also what Achmat Essau has to say. He's a South Africa over in New Zealand, and he's going to be telling us all about how New Zealand is missing out on that South African flair in their Super Rugby Aotearoa. But look, back home, Deon, I mean, let me not cut you off. I know that every person in South Africa, let's say Eastern Cape specifically, has a soft spot for those New Zealand teams, and you certainly wanted to say something there. What was on your mind?
No. I'll leave that for another episode, not for now. The Eastern Cape people are fond of New Zealand rugby players. But let me be honest, the biggest thing is the brand of rugby. It's a brand of rugby that those guys are playing. It's nothing political. Some political, but for a lot of us, it's a brand of rugby, entertaining. Just like Progress, we're playing entertainment rugby. When our spectators come, they know we'll put on a show for them. So that's the relationship with Progress and the New Zealand team, I think.
No, definitely. And I think, do you guys aspire to play like any New Zealand team by any chance? Is there a team that you guys try to emulate?
I think the whole brand, if you look at New Zealand, that is one of the strong points. The club rugby, the school rugby, the provincial rugby, the international team, they're playing one brand of rugby. And that's throwing the ball around. And we as Progress, we do that. That is one of our strongest points. We like to throw the ball around, play the ball up until up to the wing and let it go around the field, all over the field, running with the ball, forwards running with the ball, passing with the ball, a lot of skills and stuff. So we have a nice brand of rugby that we are playing, to be honest.
No, definitely. It was on show in the Super Sport Challenge just a few years ago, where we could see exactly the flair, the talent that Progress had. And it's certainly one that the rest of South Africa is looking forward to watching. And I mean, what is your philosophy? What is that philosophy that gets your guys amped up right there? Is it still just to play for the jersey?
You're cutting out.
Oh, it looks like we had a
no. To be honest, our guys have ambitions to prep. Yeah, I'm fine. No, for us, firstly, it's all about the jersey. And to be honest, I mentioned a few players. I mentioned a few coaches, guys that used or make use of the opportunity of Progress platform that Progress created for them. And look how they achieved. And I mean, to be honest, we are one of the best team in the Eastern Cape. Let's start with the Eastern Cape. I will leave out nationally. But in the Eastern Cape, we are one of the best teams. And I mean, we although we are an amateur team, we run our club as professionals, we run our club as a professional. And I know our players have ambitions to play provincial and international, national, international rugby and stuff. So we'll create that platform. And for any young player that has ambitions to play provincial or nationally, Progress is the proper platform to start your rugby career, because you'll be educated and guided to know what to expect to be a provincial player, if I can call it like that, or just being a good rugby player, if I can say that.
And I think it's been made so much easier now that you've got Coach Peter de Villiers there, and he's obviously opening up the reins. You guys are currently playing right now against the Griquas, and Peter de Villiers has made it obvious that he wants to use your club players and get them into the provincial setup, and hopefully one day they can go on and reach greater heights.
Yes, for sure, for sure. You must remember, Rome wasn't built in one day. That's the first thing I can say. As I said earlier in the show, we allow, as a club, we will allow Peter to find his feet. That's the first thing. We'll support him. We'll give him time to settle in, you know. And if there's anything that he needs our support, we'll support him, you know. But we'll, as a club, we will engage with him, and we'll engage him to see how we can assist him, you know, because there's a lot of shortcomings currently. And as I said, Rome wasn't built in one day. And we'll see where we can assist him and help him, to be honest, because we're part of the Eastern Province, you know. We can't hide. We love our province. So that's why we want to see, we want to do anything we can do to make this province once again one of the greatest rugby provinces in our country.
God willing, and you guys will definitely do that. I have no doubt about that. Deon, that's all we have time for this evening. I'm certainly looking forward to a part 2 of the show. Your rugby brain can be picked all night because you certainly giving us so much information and input that's so valuable to the viewers, to the listeners, and to everybody at home there who's just a sport-loving person. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Thaakir, from my side. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for giving our club opportunity and the recognition that they deserve. And we wish you all the best. Thank you, Thaakir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Deon. We definitely look forward to having you on the show again and chatting more things about club rugby and what you guys are getting up to the Eastern Cape. But for now, I know that you're in the mother city and you need to go watch your EP team. So go on and go do that and have a good evening further.
Same to you, my friend. Thanks. Keep well.
Thank you so much. That was Deon Basson, the president of Progress Rugby Club down in Uitenhage. They are definitely making waves in the rugby fraternity and also in the Eastern Cape by breaking unbeaten runs, getting sold-out stadiums. Well, what is life after COVID have for them? I'm sure that it's definitely all things good. But up next, we've got a very special lady on our show this evening. She is a 2016 Olympian. She represented South Africa at the Rio Olympics. She then went ahead and then came back from the Olympics and decided, no, man, she wants to chuck around a rugby ball. And then she then joined up with the South African Sevens team. She's also a media personality, if you can call it that. She knows her way around cameras and production as well. So a woman of many traits. But anyway, tonight she's here to chat about what it takes to be an Olympian. Alyssa Conley, good evening, and thank you for joining me this evening.
Evening, Talks. Thanks for having me. Your intro makes me sound like a very, very confused person.
Confused? I don't think so. I just think a woman of many trades, and you certainly mastered all of them because not everybody gets to do them at the level that you did. Alyssa, it's Olympics here. Well, it was supposed to be last year. I'm sure everybody's conditioning and tapering was thrown out of the window and they just had to start fresh again. When you went to the Olympics, what was the mood like that year? Was it the nerves and obviously the skill at the same time, making sure that you're ready in time for the Olympics? What was it like?
I mean, let's just take it back, before Olympics. Before Olympics, I was not involved in track and field for about 4 years due to operations and challenges and injuries and all that. And I decided at the end of 2014, I think it was 2014 November, I decided I have to try to make Olympics again. I was supposed to make it in 2012, but unfortunately due to operation, I just wasn't on track to make it. So 2014 at the end, I decided I have to prepare and I have to try and make Olympics because I've always wanted to be an Olympian. So went back into it about November 2014 and I started training really hard and it was extremely tough because out of sight, out of mind. So I had no presence in the track and field industry, both locally, nationally, and internationally. No one knew Alyssa Connolly. And if no one knows about you, then you don't get lanes, you don't get races. It's really tough to make it back into the industry and on circuit. So I had to work really hard. I had to race, every single race. I had to get extremely fast times out there for the year of 2016 so that I can prepare myself for Olympics. And it was extremely challenging for me because I felt like because I had to prove myself again, I over raced myself. And by the time it was Olympics, I was kind of burnt out a little bit, but geez, absolutely surreal experience. When I got onto the Olympic track in Rio, I looked at my coach and I was like, what the hell are we doing here? Like we at the Rio Olympics on the Olympic track, and I just saw the biggest names around me. I mean, I think the first person I saw when I got to the village was Sunnyball Williams.
Yes,
one of your
and
favorites.
when I was putting the overlay together for the show, I was like, why did I not get that photo? Because I knew you're gonna bring it up.
Yeah, no, him and his New Zealand teammates, they were very friendly, and obviously they were training and warming up on the grass field next to the track, and they came over and had a conversation with us, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just spoke to Sunnyball Williams. Like, what the hell is going on here? So the caliber of athletes
Sunnyball Williams spoke to Alyssa Conley.
I mean, we can look at it that way. It's fine. But yeah, that's how amazing it was, because as a young girl, you just you grow up watching these people on TV and watching them train and compete, and it's only a dream for you to be on the same stage as them. And when you get there, it's absolutely unbelievable and surreal. Yeah.
Alyssa, if we take it back and we look at obviously the athletic side of things, we spoke about mentally what it took you to get into that space and everything. Athletically, what was it like preparing for the Olympics, getting your body ready for the Olympics? What was your training schedule like building up for the Olympic Games?
Yeah, so literally before Olympics, I was based in Italy because with my team and my agent, we would camp in Italy, Gemona. And we would race all over Europe. And obviously, we would be training every day, literally eating, breathing, sleeping, preparation. So that's your full-time job. You wake up and, you'll have a rehabilitation session or a prehab session. Then you'll have your track session and you'll have your gym session. You have to eat well. You have to sleep well. You have to recover well. So it was a 24/7 thing, preparation for the Olympics. And also, we were racing on the Rio time zone. So I think my 100-meter heat was at 11:30 p.m. in the evening, South African time. And This was absurd because now you have to get your body on a different time clock. So you force yourself to train at about 8 p.m., 9 p.m. in the evening, just so that you can have energy around that time. So it's a lot of preparation, a lot of mental preparation, a lot of physical preparation, and there's a lot of aspects that people don't realize that actually go into it, which was really tough because by the time it's 9 o'clock, I'm in my fifth dream, no matter where we are. So having to stay up and do nothing for the entire day and then get ready to go and train at 9 p.m. in the evening, like absolutely absurd. But it's things that you have to do. It's adjustments you have to make in order to be at your peak performance.
And what was the reason for you training at 9 o'clock at night? Was it because of the time that you were going to be racing in Rio, or what was the method behind that? Why did your coach let you train at that time?
Exactly that. You had to get your body ready and adjusted to the different time zones. So you had to change your sleep patterns. You had to kind of sleep a bit later. There was a lot of nights where I had to force myself to stay up until about 2 a.m. And sleep later into the day, just to get my body adjusted to the different time zones, because obviously I would need to be at my most alert at 11 p.m. to go and race. And it plays an important part in, warming up, in being reactive, in being ready for the race, and being focused for the race. If your mind is off and switched off and you're tired, then you're not in the zone, you're not present. So yeah, that is the reason why we had to move everything later and adjust.
It certainly sounds like a full-time job preparing for the Olympics, and then knowing that you obviously South African athlete at the time and going over to Rio. Let's be realistic about this. I mean, knowing that your chances were slim, yet at the same time, there's so many South Africans that broke records and obviously beat the greatest Olympians that there was to be. I mean, Chad Leclerc done it in the pool when it came to Michael Phelps. Did that linger at the back of your mind during training? Do you train those scenarios that this could be the day that I bring gold home to my country?
Yeah, obviously, as an athlete, you always want to do the best that you can do. You want to either get a personal best or break limits or be the first South African to make a final or medal at the Olympics in a sprinting event. So that is always at the back of your mind. We don't work, we don't train, just to make a heat or semifinals. We want to be in the final. So we train our mind, and we get into that mental space where anything can happen and anything is possible. So it doesn't matter if you're racing Shelley Ann Fraser or one of the top athletes, Daphne Skips, whatever. It doesn't matter if you're lining up next to Elaine Thompson. You're like focused. This is a race that you're going to run. Doesn't matter who your competitors are. You want to do the best that you can do. So definitely it is at the back of your mind. You want to be that Chad Leclerc on the track or that Wade van Niekerk or whatever. We all train for that moment. We all want that moment. So yeah, it's at the back of your mind, and watching them achieve it just kind of makes it a little more realistic, because they're also from South Africa, and if your counter athlete is doing it, why can't you? Type of thing. So yeah.
No, definitely, Alyssa. Your body gets put through quite a bit, and if there's anybody to talk about your body being put through its paces and used and abused, if you want to call it that, it would be you. What exactly was your body going through, and did it actually affect you as a person in the build up to the Olympics?
Yeah, I started track and field at a very tender age. I think I was around 4 years old when I started racing. About 6 or 7 when I joined a running club, and then started racing provincial champs, national champs. Around 12 years old when I made my first national team to go and run in Australia. So I raced from a very, very young age, and I think that it definitely took a toll on my body, especially my joints. Let me put it to you this way: it's like a car with a lot of mileage on it. It can only go that fast. In the end of the day, so I have a lot of mileage on my legs because I started very young, and it did affect me and my career, because obviously, if I had started a bit later, I think I could have had a bit more in me, especially now being 29 years old, 30 years old soon. I think that this is my peak age. But because of overuse injuries and multiple operations that I had to go for because of these injuries, I think it definitely plays a role in what I can still achieve on the track.
And now you're definitely a role model for so many young people, young athletes, young rugby players out there. And I mean, you're just an amazing person in general. Alyssa, if you could be trackside with the current crop of athletes and you've experienced what there was to experience at the Olympics, what are some of the words that you'd be whispering in their ears just to make things a bit easier for them or motivate them going into the Olympics?
Every single athlete that is at the Olympics has put in the work that is required to be there. No one is there by chance, including yourself. So each and everyone deserves to be there, and anyone can win the race. So definitely I'd motivate them, and I'd encourage them to just do their best and to focus on themselves. A lot of people get sidetracked, including myself. When I ran my first 100-meter heat, I was next to Elaine Thompson, and I was like, holy crap. So we get sidetracked and we don't realize that she's just an athlete, just like I am, and I have worked just as hard as she has. So it's anybody's race. Focus on your race, focus on your plan, focus on your journey at the games or in any championships, and you never know what's possible.
Definitely. I think that's such wise words and advice that anybody can use. I mean, if you just look at that face.
Why do I always have to have that face? Oh my gosh. So embarrassing.
I think it's your game face. Alyssa, thank you so much.
It's always me stretching for the line face because I've always got a close race, So yeah, that's what
exactly. That's why you're an SA champ for a reason. I mean, come on. But thank you so much
Maybe
for your time this
soon
evening.
Again.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
certainly looking forward to it. And when you come back to Joburg, and it means that I need to stand trackside with a whip and make sure that you do break those records again, I'll be there. No doubt about
Perfect. I'll hold you to it. Thanks, Doc. It's good chatting to you.
Cool. It's always a pleasure chatting to you. I hope to chat to you soon. And next time, I mean, I'm sure you can make it all things rugby. Alyssa, thanks so much for your time this evening. And yeah, we look forward to chatting to you soon.
Definitely. Thank you.
That was Alyssa Conley, the 2016 Rio Olympian, telling us a bit about what it takes to prepare for the Olympics as an athlete, and physically and mentally. what your body goes through so that you can be ready for the Olympics to compete against some of the greatest athletes that has ever taken to the track. Quite an amazing story that Alyssa has just told us. But now, to end off the show, we're going to be chatting to a very special guest all the way from New Zealand. He goes by the name of Achmat Essau, and he's going to tell us a bit about the terror attacks that took place in New Zealand 2 years ago and how it affected the community over there. And he's also going to tell us how New Zealand is adapting to not having South Africa in the Super Rugby. And yeah, let's chat to him in just a bit. For joining me on the show today.
Good evening, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and kia ora, as we say in New Zealand, in Maori.
Wow, I think you're making me learn very quickly. Seeing that I want to come over there pretty soon. Ahmad, just give us a bit of a background to yourself. Where do you come from? Where do you grow up? And how did you get to New Zealand?
Okay, just out of respect for the indigenous people of New Zealand, I'd like to do my introduction in Te Reo Maori, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Ko Achmat Essau, ko Table Mountain te maunga, ko Lisbeth te awa, ko Football te waka, no Africa ki te tonga, no reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. What I basically said is my name is Achmat Essau. My mountain is Table Mountain. My river is the Lisbeth River. And I am from South Africa. So Maori have, the indigenous people of New Zealand have a way of introducing themselves so that the audience know exactly who they are facing and who is addressing them. So that's what we call a mihi. My name is Achmat Essau, born in Bo-Kaap, Cape Town. I decided to come to New Zealand shortly after the new South Africa was declared. My reasons for that are many, but the main one was that as an educationalist, I kind of foresee where we were going to for the introduction of Model C schools, and I wasn't going to be part of that, or my children. So I came to the country, not that I said I love, but I love rugby, and I came to a country where rugby is probably a passion. And I knew also that through a local coach and a fellow Bokabi, but Thaakir said that he had some connections here, and he put me in contact with some people. And we've never looked back after that. And I became a plough japi. I went to live in the countryside for 3 years. That was tough for someone from a big city like Cape Town. And then after 3 years, I moved to Auckland. And then just outside Auckland, again on the farm. And so in total, I spent 17 years being a plough japi from being a city boy. And then after that, for the last 5 years, 6 years, we've been living just in one of the suburbs of Auckland. And very much involved in rugby, and but also making sure that I still kept my rugby ties with South Africa and my club. Because as a grassroots rugby man, I'm passionate about that. I've got a wife and 2 children. My wife is the younger sister of the great Kasim Jabbar, and I'm quite proud of that. And my children are now 29 and 27. And they have grown up in New Zealand most of their lives. My daughter is married at the moment, and I'm a grandfather, by the way.
Hey, so, congratulations!
My daughter is married to a Maori Tongan, and my son, he's back from Dunedin where he studied, and he's at the moment in between careers, and he's staying with us, which is quite a blessing after 9 years studying at Otago University. There's something about that place. It's a bit like Stellenbosch as a university city, and just to give your listeners and viewers an idea. So the Dunedin is basically made up of student life, like Stellenbosch is, and of course these days when you see that they've got the only covered stadium, which is ideal. So basically that's me at the moment, teaching again at primary school and coaching and refereeing, and also trying, like with yourself, working with grassroots organizations in Cape Town trying to get some opportunities for our historically disadvantaged communities and our talent that is, I feel, is still untapped over there. Yeah, that's me.
Well, what an introduction. It's so nice to obviously see that you set your roots, you took your roots out of Cape Town, you set them in New Zealand, and finally you have your kids, grandkids, and it looks like that Kaapse Gees is just gonna settle into New Zealand.
Yeah,
we did see the likes of Achmat Adams. He had culture shock, and it was so amazing to see that how life is over there, and the cultural background. People are still keeping up with the heritage and the culture of the Malay choirs and the clubs over there. It's quite amazing. Achmat, tell us more about. We are obviously earlier this week we not celebrated, but we looked back at a very sad moment in the Muslim community in New Zealand. Definitely shook the entire world. And the 2-year anniversary of the killings in Christchurch, the terror attacks, that must have been quite devastating for you as a New Zealander and a Muslim as well in New Zealand.
Yeah.
How was it like coping with that?
Yeah, I'm still actually quite emotionally moved by it, not because only as a Muslim and as a person, but because I'm very fortunate that my wife and I and another Bokapi, Thaakir Arends, who's a movie maker, Thaakir, we work within a Maori Muslim organization, reverts from the Maori and Pacific Island communities. It's called O Mato Rio, Our Collective Voices. So we work with them, and for the last 3 years. So things that we pick up are how the indigenous people, Maori especially, and Pacific Islanders, that's Tongans and Samoans and even Fijians, how they are coming into the religions and how they are faced with challenges and dilemmas from a cultural point of view. Just for example, Maori have what they call, the greenstone necklaces that they wear, the taonga, or they have the tattoos, and you might have seen them on some of the rugby players. So they are told when they become Muslim that those things aren't allowed in Islam. And of course, the people who tell them that, they come from a cultural perspective. So we are just there to kind of assist them and say, no, that's not actually the whole truth. And
what is actually the truth behind that? Just to ask you, because it's been quite a talking point, especially with the likes of Sonny Bill Williams that went on Umrah and he had his ihram, and so many people had such negative comments to say. How does that fit in with religion and culture?
Yeah, well, for these guys like Sonny Bill and Ofa Tuanganafasi and even a guy like the one that played for Otago that said his kalima in South Africa.
Yes, in Houghton, that was the Muslim
Thompson.
Yes.
Now, I'm not, on the religious. I don't have that knowledge, but guys like Mufti Mink and also commented on that very positively. And these guys have come to Islam. They've come, alhamdulillah. And I mean, they could have gone any other way, but they came to Islam, and they have tattoos, and we know the process of removing these things. But is that really important in the bigger picture of things? As Mufti Mink has said, he said that rather focus on, getting these guys to become Muslim, learn the deen and stuff like that. Because we are a very finicky community, and I understand that we're conservative. Our survival as people who were forced as political exiles coming to Cape Town, we followed a very purist kind of way, and we understand that. We were very fickle about little things. But times are changing, and we have to be accommodating. And I'm not saying selling ourselves. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you have a tattoo that is part of your culture, and you've come into Islam, I mean, removing that tattoo with Sonny Bill, I think it would be bloody painful and enduring for him to have that. So I think, we leave that to the religious guys. Doesn't bother me, because I think what he's done for Islam and for Muslims is amazing. It's probably what organizations and even governments, Muslim governments, couldn't have done in terms of presenting a positive image of Muslims, So I forgot now what you asked me originally, but anyway, you can just continue.
So I was just touching on how was the Muslim community over in New Zealand affected with the terror attacks?
Yeah. So last year we planned this what we call 1551. It happened on the 15th, and 51 people got killed. And we had an art exhibition, because I'm a fine artist as well. My original qualification was a degree in fine art at the University of Cape Town at the Michaela School of Fine Art, and we still had to have a permit to study then. Yeah, those were the days, my friend. So so and then I became a teacher. So art is still a passion, and I express myself through art. So with the Maori Pacific Island group, we had an exhibition, and we held it on the 14th of March, just before lockdown. And by a whole, Allah knows best, the Almighty knows best. That day that we had it on the 14th, because everyone was in Christchurch and nobody could really attend or host our event as a guest speaker. Everyone was flying down, and we had our event, which was well attended. And then the afternoon of our event, all events were stopped. And our event was one of two events that was the only ones commemorating the first year of the shooting. So we also published a booklet after that, because the photos we took was really, and we launched it with later in last year, the end of the year, we had a launch of the booklet. So we were very fortunate, and all other commemorations went because of lockdown, because of COVID and its global impact. So this year it was more online. And again, we had some projects going with different organizations, because lockdown was still dictating a lot of what was going to happen and what was not going to happen. So we played it safe, like we're doing at the moment online, And then I've still got a project going, children's poetry. But the other one that I managed to pull off was I had 1551 again, Messages of Hope, and I approached imams in Cape Town, and imams from Cape Town that are living in Australia and in America that were friends of mine. And they sent me a 2 to 5 minute message of hope. And I broadcast that on social media, which was really well received. And the imams was Imam Amin from Australia, who was from Boka. It was Farid Majid, who was from the MJC. It was Imam Shakir Ahmed from Belha. And it was Achmat Essau, who used to teach at Habibia and was also from Belleville. And we were good friends, and he's in Michigan. And then the other one was Maulana Azim Khatib, which, he was the chaplain he was still a chaplain in the prisons. And we come from our anti-drug days, Salt River anti-drug, Bukab anti-drug as activists. The only one that couldn't make it he was busy, was Imam Rashid Umar. But Alhamdulillah, it was a late it was a late request, but we finally we could broadcast it. But I was very sad making this and going through this with these imams and sheikhs. And it hit deep. It still hurts. It hurts because you cannot understand that a person can go into a house of prayer, house of worship in New Zealand, and blatantly kill, or two houses of prayer, 51 people, and injure 40 people, and touch so many lives. And you saw the impact it had on New Zealand. You saw what the Prime Minister of the country had done for us, and you feel proud to that. You are in New Zealand. I'm not going to say I'm a New Zealander, because I still regard myself as a South African, but I live in New Zealand. And it's very raw, Thaakir. It's something that will always be raw, and I'm just afraid that we become used to these things. But it is an emotional roller coaster. At the moment, we've had the big service on Saturday, which was a national service, again because of COVID, and we had some services in the mosque. And alhamdulillah, because we've been so strict with keeping the virus and containing it, we could have these public events. And again, the Prime Minister, she came out there wearing her korowai, which is the Maori cloak, which is a sign of your esteem, your mana. We call it mana. And mana is something that's to do with your position, the respect you hold, the respect you give, the respect you receive. So again, we are fortunate that in this part of the world, we have non-Muslim leaders that actually give us the time of the day. And Yeah.
And talking about leaders, do you think that the decision or the action taken by your leaders obviously brought some comfort to the Muslim community and also brought you guys closer somewhat?
It did, and we've done some research over it. It's not the flashes of research in terms of, because this anti-Muslim Islamophobia thing, and I don't want to sound like someone that's going on a bandwagon, but it quite cuts deep. So if a country like New Zealand could take a scientific survey after the killing, the mosque shooting, and then recently again, and there is a shift, a positive shift to more understanding, not of only of Islam, but of other cultures, because New Zealand is a very diverse society, but the shift is not very big, but it's a shift. But if a country like New Zealand, which, we do not have the massive problems and complications of other societies in terms of race relations, if we can struggle with it, it's really concerning what could happen in other societies. So yes, we are positive about there's a change in the landscape in terms of feeling, and there's a better understanding of Muslims and ultimately of other cultures. But again, we are still in that zone, Thaakir, that we can say there's lots of work to be done. And hopefully in sport, that's where we can do a lot of that. And I think that's where people like ourselves can do it. And again, there's lots of criticism from the purists about sport. But look, we've got to use these avenues and maybe just broaden our view, and be more flexible in trying to combat this massive global narrowness and sheer hatred towards us as Muslims.
Yeah.
But there's towards other people. We just seen the Black Lives Matter movement and the reaction from people because Trumpism was there and they felt comfortable to come out of the closet, because a racist was on the world stage and he dictated things. And that was the good thing about him being there, because we now know where we stand with lots of people,
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
again, a raw thing, but alhamdulillah, New Zealand society has reacted in a positive way, in a model way that maybe our cousins across the ditch can learn from it, because Australia, our bigger cousin, but they are still besieged with deeper problems in terms of the killer was Australian. I mean, the guy who came over was Australian, So it's just an ongoing struggle. Like we say, aluta continua.
She's taking us way back there, and for those kids in the 2000s,
always in the mind.
Google is there, and Google will tell you exactly what aluta continua means,
and
the different phrases and the different terminology, and obviously how it was used back in the day in the struggle. Achmat, let's go back to my most exciting part of this evening and chatting to you. We've seen the New Zealand Super Rugby Aotearoa obviously kicking off, and there's been some exciting fixtures. We see that you have fans back in the stadiums. Quite exciting stuff. How's that going? I mean, what was it like attending the game?
Well, I was very fortunate to take a school team on Sunday to play in the curtain raiser. So with my rugby connections with Auckland Rugby and working with Joe Tuatavaki, who's from Auckland Rugby, and he worked with the Cape Town Heritage Warriors as well, and he worked with Labib and all of those people and Saud.
Nice.
So he asked me if they want to bring some schools in, and it was going to be a tackle first, but we were still under level 2, so the game could only go on if with crowds if it was level 1. But they changed it to ripper because, like I said, they're quite strict in terms of contact tracing and isolating people. So I took 13 kids, boys and girls, and we had the chance to play at Eden Park just before the game. We also had the chance to be the lineup, and then the teams ran through, with other teams. So they ran through So it was a big occasion for my 9 and 10-year-olds. And for myself, of course, standing there, and of course, the Blues are on the up because they've got a beast of a pack of forwards. Recently, compared to South Africans, which that has stirred a bit of a debate. But yeah, they do have a lot of big forwards, and they seem to be the only ones that can be any opposition to the Crusaders, because at the moment, the Crusaders tight five, which is an all black tight five, are just basically crushing the other Super Rugby teams in Aotearoa, and that's how they are gaining, besides them being really good. Excellent.
Really good, yeah.
But but up tight five, they're just doing the job, and like last week against the Chiefs, Richie Mo'unga could do what he wanted. You saw it. He basically had a free reign. But hopefully this Sunday, the Blues, our beast of pack can stop them.
That's going to be a big one, the Blues against the Crusaders.
It is.
Looking at it, you've obviously referred to South African packs of forwards. And I mean, what are some of the aspects that you think would impact New Zealand rugby quite drastically, seeing that they've moved away from having the South Africans in the competition? Do you think that this should be a positive for New Zealand rugby, or could it work against them when we do face each other in tournaments like the World Cup or the Rugby Championship?
Look, I'm going to be the first to admit, as much as I have a deep... okay, we won't go into that about the South African rugby establishment, but I would be the first to admit that New Zealanders respect South African rugby. They respect it because of the long legacy of competition and that, but because of the reality that because rugby is probably the second religion of South Africans, in a way, well, to us maybe... as well. And South Africa has the record of, being one of the top ones and the world champions at the moment. So New Zealanders in general support South Africans. They are deeply cut up about that South Africa won't be there. I'm not that cut up about it. But they are cut up about it. And you can hear it from the commentary from the Jeff Wilsons, from the Christian Cullens, from all the guys that work for Sky, for the Carl Tananas and all of that. And that's the reality. I don't know how that's going to play out, because now you've seen the end of an era. And I always say the last few matches against, and I will never forget the one in Ellis Park, is this: when New Zealand plays against South Africa, we seem to bring the best out of the South Africans, and they approach the game differently. And those were humdiggers of games. It was the seesaw games. And of course, that's what's going to be missed. I think for New Zealand, there's a lot of things in the pipeline here. There's always been pressure to bring in the Pacific Island teams. And of course, Japan now has put in a lot of money into rugby. And the Japanese rugby, because of the foreigners, the South Africans, the Australians, and the New Zealanders, and especially the Islanders that go over there, because the Tongans, they actually go to university and study at university. They speak Japanese before they speak English. They'll speak Tongan and then Japanese and then English. So they've made a difference. And that top league in Japan is it's not with the easy league that it used to be. So there's a big move here towards getting rugby established here. The Aussies are, with Rennie there, they put a lot of new players on the paddock, and I've been watching their Super Rugby Australia. Not too bad. Not too bad.
Did you watch it? Not too bad.
Yeah,
actually one of the first that actually likes Aussie rugby.
No,
a lot of people have that as a entertainment to put them to bed.
Just in comparison, I'm just trying to say, look what it was and what it is now. And they've got a lot of Kiwi players playing there, island players that played with All Blacks here, but they knew they couldn't make it and they moved over, because there's a lot of moving across the ditch. So they Tapaya for once, the center, the midfielder Tapaya. Look at him, he's amazing. Samu, the number 8 who played for the Crusaders. So these are guys that played with Anton Leonard Brown and guys like that, So they played New Zealand schools and stuff. So that cross-pollination, that crossing of the codes and the crossing of the players is going to bear fruit. And of course, we mustn't underestimate Rennie. Rennie is not. Hy het nie van die aardappeldorie afgeval nie. Hy sê Pampuni. So I look at it, and speaking with Labib Levy when he was here, you've got to look at all of those little things and see, because this is a very finicky game, it's a very there's a scientific approach to our game now, and these guys are doing everything to just to just to know each other, and so we're back into the South Africans. It's going to be interesting not playing against the provincial sides or the super sides and meeting the South Africans on the world stage, because there's a
much
lot
research can go into it. It's gonna be
there
obviously
is.
It's going to be interesting to see how things play out, because it's now the first time you're meeting this team for the season. Whereas with the Super Rugby season, you'd meet them like twice already throughout the season before you go on and meet them in a national team jersey. So I mean, there's lots of pros and lots of cons to this, but I mean, this topic can go on for days. We can definitely chat a lot about it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other topics we need to chat about is Rugby League as well. Obviously, in another episode, we'll have to address Rugby League, because it's a sport that's growing in South Africa, and many South Africans, we don't really. It's growing. It's growing. Oscar, our good friend, Bom Samai, he actually represented South Africa in Rugby League.
Are they the Rhinos? They're the Rhinos.
That's the Rhinos. That's correct. Yes. So there's a lot of aspects that we need to take into consideration with that, but we definitely look forward to chatting to you again. Look, we've come to the end of our chat for the evening. But definitely, we need to chat a bit more about this, and let's dwell a bit more, get more into the history and stuff like that in our next chat. Thank you so much for being on the show this evening. Hope you have a good evening. Good luck for your Blues going further for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Wa alaikum assalam, and as the Maori would say, kia ora. Kaki te ano.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That was Achmat Essau giving us a bit of what it's like in New Zealand, the rugby space, and how things are evolving. Obviously, South Africa being out of the Super Rugby and how that would be affecting them. He also touched. We've come to the end of the show this evening. Thank you so much for everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this post and this video. Let's hope that it's informative. It informs the SA public at large and many others out there. I mean, not every day do we get to chat to a former Olympian and tell us exactly what it takes as an athlete to prepare for the Olympics. We've also chatted to Achmat Essau recently in the last interview, telling us all about Super Rugby Aotearoa and the Blues, and also the attacks in Christchurch. It's amazing to see and hear other people's perspectives when it comes to that. Also, we started the show with Kosie Basson all the way in Uitenhage, telling us a bit more about Progress Rugby Club and their challenges they're currently facing, their achievements over the years, their players that have made it big on a provincial and a national stage. It's amazing. If you've missed any part of the show, it will be up on my Facebook platform. Don't forget to like, follow, and share, as well as companies, businesses. If you want to advertise, right down here in that section below, you can advertise your company. Just get in contact with me via email or on my cell phone number, and I'll definitely tell you how you can go about advertising there. Well, but that's it from me this evening. Thank you so much for everyone for tuning in. I'm Thaakir. It was nice being with you guys for the evening, but that's it from me.